Marvel Rivals' new Resource Rumble mode, including the map design itself, is not like anything we have ever seen before. And this game mode, while extremely fun, has a teensy bit of a flaw. Today what I'd like to do is talk about all of the unique details, including how the new Resource Rumble mode works, so that you can best take advantage and kind of exploit the system, because there's a little bit of something that I feel like needs to be adjusted, and just generally appreciate how cool this map is. Personally, out of all the maps that I have gone over on this channel, I think this one's my favorite. There's some really cool set pieces on this that I'm a huge fan of. We're also going to talk about some of the best heroes and general map flow so that you can jump in and be ready to go and best take advantage of this. Let's start with the map details. First of all, each of these spawns are going to be identical. In fact, the entire map, as far as I can tell, is pretty much a mirror of each other. However, these background set pieces here, for this one, the Panther with the symbiote kind of tearing into it, and then on the other side we have this sort of big behemoth skull, is really cool. I'm a big fan of this Panther here. I think this is something that you absolutely should take a moment to take a look at here. Each of these jump points will launch you according to the direction that you're going. These aren't like any of the jump points that you've seen prior on any other maps where they always set to launch you a certain way. You can actually sort of control this here. But as we actually get into the game itself, we can start to look at some of these details. And it's these details and just the flow of how this game mode works, despite my hesitations with it, that makes me want to play it all the time. Sometimes I wish I could play Rivals on the go, but thankfully I can scratch my superhero combat itch with Marvel Strike Force. Use my link in the description to try the game for free, not just on mobile, but also on PC. Take down reality-ending threats like Doctor Doom and Apocalypse with your favorite team of heroes and villains by completing missions, unlocking new gear, and even battling against other players in Alliance, War, and Arena. New players can unlock up to 17 characters in just the first 30 days. In this constantly evolving game, there are always new ways to team up with friends, complete weekly Alliance battles, and raids, all while you formulate the perfect team synergies within your heroes' factions and create combos to get deeper and deeper into the strategy to unlock your squad's full potential. And to celebrate the new movie Fantastic Four First Steps, Marvel Strike Force is giving away the full Fantastic Four team for a limited time for free. Use code MSF4 to unlock Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, The Thing, and Human Torch. This team is a great way to set up a flexible yet rock-solid starting team to set the early game on fire. The MSF4 promo code will be available until September 30th in 2025, so don't delay. Use my link in the description, or of course scan the QR code to download the game, and thank you Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring today's video. First thing you're going to notice here if we go outside of the map is just how truly massive and well detailed it truly is out here. Lots of these set pieces are designed to be seen from certain areas, but of course we can look at them a little bit early, starting of course over here with Knull, who is fighting with the Phoenix. I love this. This is so cool to get to see this up close. This is probably the thumbnail because this is so cool. But if we jump back to the rest of the layout, this is designed almost like a Halo map or something. Like, it's much more of arena combat based, or maybe even a MOBA, as the map is designed to have a 3-lane philosophy. Each of these lanes are going to be active according to what zone's unlocked, which by the way is unlocked at random. It's just chosen at the start of the game, so there's not really any way to kind of plan for each of these. You just kind of have to take what you're given to you. But each of these do have a bit of a leaning towards which zone is the best for which hero, as you're kind of starting to get a feel here as I'm moving around, but of course we'll talk about that in just a bit. As I was looking at the top of this here, I actually noticed this really big dragon, something that we actually saw in leaks earlier, and now we get to see it up close. It's a little bit lower poly, but dude, dragons are cool, right? When is a dragon not cool? And getting to see this out here is dope. You actually can see this from one of the other maps. Like, this is designed to only be seen really from one of them here, but getting to see this up close is really cool. This entire map is designed sort of like a beehive or an ant colony or something of the sort, in that there's a lot of tunnels and ramp terrain everywhere. You'll see these little symbiote surfaces here that you can shoot, which are a much bigger deal in this. They are much more front and center. We get to see these, of course, on the previous Knull-based or symbiote-based maps, but they are much more critical here, as the way that they get access to new areas is much more front and center. So I highly advise that you take advantage of this, especially if you're a lower mobility hero, to get to the areas that you need to be, because these upper areas can sort of like a bowl or a valley for the enemies that have longer range stuff to shoot in on you here. There's a lot of tunnels here as well. It's really easy to get lost in here. Even as I'm flying through and doing it rather slowly, I'm willing to bet that a lot of you are probably getting lost. I can assure you that once you actually start playing it, it's not too bad, especially because you know where generally the map point is, your teammates are, and so on and so forth. But I do encourage people to take these back rooms, to take these back tunnels and such, because the main area that you're going to be fighting from sort of funnels in, and it's easy to just get gridlocked, and just simply having one person in the back to draw aggro away from the rest of the fight can be very, very good at allowing the rest of your team to collapse in. Highly recommended, especially if you are a DPS player. So as we meander our way through, we make our way over to the area B. The central point here in this area is a lot more open. In fact, expect to see more flyers on this, as this area here is probably one of the better areas for them, and there's less pits to actually dump enemies into. If, let's say, you're a Jeff player and you're looking to use your ult, there's not a lot of options here. They do exist, but they're kind of more off into the side than they will be on some of these other maps, specifically Area C, which of course we're going to get to. Again, I will highly encourage you to look for these high grounds here, as the map sort of splits out and forks in the road right from your initial spawn, and you get to choose whether you want to fight enemies right in that main choke point, or you get to take it further. As for the enemy team, let's say that you are controlling the zone, I encourage you to move off of the zone just a bit and start to try to bottleneck enemies further in. Because this map splits off in very distinct areas, I encourage you to push forward. Again, something we'll see here when we actually get to the gameplay. Push forward just a bit and set up camp, forcing the enemy team to kind of take you head on, rather than giving them the opportunity to split off or forcing them to go much, much wider to actually get the flank on you. And lastly, we come into Area C. This is where we actually can see Knull and Phoenix fighting. This area has far fewer and is a much different design overall than the areas that we've seen prior. Every other area that we've seen has pretty much been designed, like I said, like a bowl for where the enemies or you can set up on high ground and shoot in on the zone. This is much more standard fare. You expect to get much more toe-to-toe combat with your enemy here, so expect fights to be much more team focused rather than flanking or different areas of elevation or so on and so forth here. Each of these zones have different strengths. Area C, the first area that we looked at, is much more focused on Brawl. Brawl has just enough mobility that they can move from point to point, from high ground to high ground, and push areas and push enemies out. And because you're so focused on close range, you aren't really penalized here, as a lot of the engagements are fairly close range. Area B, the main big area, is much more dive orientated. Because there's a lot bigger, more open areas, you need the mobility to jump from cover to cover or back to your team. Again, also expect to see a lot more flyers here, or swap over to flyers, as that can be very critical. And then the last area is much more focused on poke. I can say that I'm a big fan of obviously them incorporating all three playstyles, as having a sort of encouragement for each of them here for each zone, as that means that no matter what you play, you're going to have one zone that you generally are better at, as there's only three primary archetypes of each team composition. Now let's talk about the actual game mode itself and talk about some of its weaknesses. While I am a big fan of this mode, and it feels almost sort of like a team deathmatch with, of course, your hero shooter elements to it, there is a small flaw in terms of the strategy about how you're going to go about engaging with this game mode. And if you're aware of it, it will be hard to miss. And I'm hoping they do some adjustments. It feels pretty close right now, but it feels like some adjustments need to be made. So here's what I'm talking about. Let's explain the overall mode to begin. The way that Resource Rumble works is that whenever you go to a zone and you're able to control it, you begin to accumulate points, resources, etc. This is just a flat amount so long as you're controlling the zone and it's not contested. There is only so much per zone, per area. You can see that on the top of the screen there. And each team can, of course, flip-flop controlling the zone in order to get those points. Those points mostly persist between Zone 1 and Zone 2, whatever the zones those may be. However, there is a cap for when you move into Zone 3. And more importantly, This little notch that you see here, this separated out area, is a big determinant on how you approach Zone 2. So let's say, for example, your team gets absolutely everything in Zone 1, the enemy team doesn't get a single point. At that point, as Team 1, you want to make sure you focus your energy on not allowing the enemy team to get anything on Zone 2. Because if Team 2 is able to fill up that first notch, that little area in there, which seems to be about 30 to 60 points, they are guaranteed to be going into Zone 3. Now, in that case, Zone 2 really doesn't matter. Because while, yes, having more resources going into Zone 3, having more points going into Zone 3 is a very good thing, it doesn't matter as much as controlling the final zone. Likely, if you're able to get your notch filled up on, let's say, Zone 2, you're going to want to save your ultimates and everything you've got in your back pocket for that final zone, because the third zone drains the resources of the other team. However much you've accumulated, if you were able to get, let's say, 200 resources, both teams got 200 resources, both teams will be set to an equal amount of 150 and 150 as they're approaching Zone 3. Obviously, if Team 1 has a little bit more, they'll have more time going into Zone 3, but you get the general picture. It just matters percentage-wise how much you have on the enemy team. Having that notch filled out means that the enemy team, your team, whatever, will not be able to drain enough resources to fill out the final zone. So, getting control of the final zone, I hope I haven't lost you. Feel free to ask me in the comments. This is, like I said, a little confusing. Getting into the final zone, the sooner you can capture it and the sooner you can begin to drain the enemy's resources, the better. Because the third zone begins to accelerate how quickly you drain those resources the longer you have control. So save your resources, if assuming both teams have their notches, save your resources, your ultimates and such, going into Zone 3. Use all of your resources as wisely as you can to try to get control of Zone 3 first. Now you're more likely to come up with a victory because you're going to be accelerating how quickly you win even faster if you can get there first. Of course, the enemy team is encouraged to do the same, but the flaw with this is, like I said, Zone 2 really doesn't matter if you're able to get control of that first notch. Like, once you have that, Zone 2 becomes more or less just trying to pad out your time a little bit more, but in the grand scheme of things, it much more matters who can get Zone 3 first, rather than however much you're able to get for Zone 2. I'm hoping that makes sense. So, while I really do like this mode, and I'm a big fan especially of the design of the actual map itself, I believe that Resource Rumble needs a little bit of tweaking, because in my experience, we either got absolutely rolled and never even got a shot at Zone 3, or it became really obvious that all of this fighting that we're doing for the first two zones kinda didn't mean a whole lot as we approached Zone 3, because of how the game averages is out and because of how quickly you can lose those resources depending on who actually captures Zone 3 first. Does that make sense? If not, let me know in the comments and let me know what you think of this map and this game mode. Like I said, personally, I'm a big fan, but I definitely think it has a bit of a flaw here. Subscribe for more content like this. Bless your faces and deuces.